Hey, I'm Derek, it's me, Derek, and welcome to Stop Skeletons and Fighting. Previously on Stop Skeletons and Fighting.
And let's be honest, folks, this video could have been like 8 hours long.
And yes, this video is also not gonna be 7 hours long, though it could be, but we are back again with more bad games that I love, because listen, I love video games, and I think if you really love video games, you gotta love the bad ones too. How else are you gonna know if the good ones are good? Gotta have that good garbo. Gotta have that good garbo to cleanse your palate. I mean, we all love watching bad movies, right? We all love listening to Corey Feldman's bad album.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
You can play bad games and have a great time, just as much fun, maybe more fun, than if you're playing a good game. Lower your expectations, because this is more bad games that I love. And I think you'll love them too. Let's go. And we start off with Splatterhouse, the 2010 remake, remastered, reboot. I love this game. You know how I feel if you've been watching this channel for a while. Yo, listen, I love Splatterhouse. It's one of my all-time favorite series, and I feel like this one absolutely is not a perfect game, but man, it hit the spirit. As a reboot, it had to change a lot the story. I think it redid the story in a much better way, fleshed out the characters between Rick and the Mask, made Dr. West an actual physical character, went some places where it kind of had to, turned into a big apocalyptic thing, implied that it was going to bring in the Jennifer monster twist, and perhaps a DLC that didn't happen. Really, like, the combat is great or fine. If you are not into extremely violent and stupid bloody games, the combat is maybe not that great. I mean, this came out after like Dead Space 2 and Bayonetta. In the oeuvre of character action games, this is definitely right in the middle. It's a great soundtrack, has these really cool 2D segments, but the collision detection is really bad and the load times are terrible. This is the type of game where, honestly, I love it, but it has flaws. And then I look at the reviews and I go like, maybe that's a little harsh, but yeah, I get it. This is not a game that I think that like reviewers were ever going to like. Splatterhouse is not a game that the reviewers have ever liked. Let's be honest. It's always been a niche game, and remaking this was going to be for a niche audience. Like me as a guy on YouTube who likes video games and is an idiot, my audience expects something probably different from me. GameSpot and Kevin Van Ort, like, they have a different role. And I can say as a Splatterhouse fan, it's worth it despite the flaws. But Kevin, and I'm sorry to keep like dunking on him, I'm not trying to do that. He was right about Demon Souls and Dark Souls before anybody else, I think. So I'm just using him as an example. But I'm able to come to you as a Splatterhouse fan, but people in his position are ostensibly talking to all consumers. And maybe the buying public at large should consider Bayonetta or Mad World instead of Splatterhouse. I mean, games that have tighter polish and better load times. Whenever a bad review comes out, or even like a game only got like a 9 instead of a perfect 10, the argument and the drama that comes from that, I always find kind of frustrating, because Metacritic scores and review scores are only a part of the conversation. When I talk about Splatterhouse, it doesn't start and stop with Kevin Van Ort's review on GameSpot. Like, that's not the be-all, end-all of it. The Metacritic score for this game is not the end of the conversation. It's a part of it. And I think that's something that's like really frustrating about why it's difficult to celebrate bad games, because we let bad review scores like color our opinion. Who cares? Good for that publication, good for that reviewer. Didn't stop me from enjoying this game. As a matter of fact, I looked at that review and went like, yeah, I could see why that website, that person probably wasn't really into this game. As always, no one sets out to make a bad game. Every game starts off with, this is gonna be the best game ever. And then time, and then energy, and then funding, and then a lot of things can go wrong in making a game. And it's pretty obvious a lot of things went wrong with this game. That doesn't excuse the fact that it has all these problems. But again, the review, the finished product, it's a part of the conversation. It is not the conversation. The history of this game is not the sole part of this conversation. It's a continuing thing. That's what's great about video games. That's what's great about the culture that surrounds it. And so, really, Splatterhouse is a great game, and I think you should play it. Temper your expectations. What it does, I think, very, very well, and it kind of outclasses a lot of its faults. But the next time that there is a bad review, man, just take it with a grain of salt. Just play the games and enjoy it. And next, another one that maybe this is just a personal thing for me, but The Goonies 2 for the Nintendo. Taking it back here. I don't know if everybody else feels that this is a bad game. Let me explain myself why I think that people think this is a bad game. So way back in the Bush era, back in like 2006, 2007, there was a young upstart kid named the Angry Video Game Nerd. Maybe you have heard of him.
You bet your ass!
And maybe you've heard of the groundswell of people that he inspired. And there were a few people that were copying his style that were dumping on Goonies 2. And I remember thinking like, nah, y'all being too harsh on this one. I've always loved this game. it's a game good enough that I actually have a boxed copy. This game is rough around the edges. I understand, again, why people gave it like their angry video game nerd reviews. And I guess actually James has never actually done this one, but I know a couple of his imitators did. And I don't mean imitator in a bad way. I was an imitator too. So first off, this game is called The Goonies 2. It is not an adaptation of the second Goonies movie. It is a sequel to the first game, which was an adaptation of the Goonies movie. Also, you can't really tell there, but there's a mermaid on here. This game goes all over the place. You are Mikey. That's Sean Austin. That's Samwise from Lord of the Rings.
My dear Sam.
So you're Mikey. You got to go through like a straight up like a Metroidvania style labyrinth to get all of your 6 Goonies friends and then rescue Annie the mermaid. Because Japan, I guess. This game came out, this is a Metroidvania style game that came out before Simon's Quest, which was also a Konami joint. So really we should be calling Metroidvanias like Metroid Goonies.
We would call them Goonoids.
Goonoids? I mean, this came out like only like a year after Metroid. I never actually played the first Goonies. Did the first Goonies predate the first Metroid?
Holy shit.
Whoa. I mean, really, I think Spelunker is probably the first Metroidvania. Goonies 2. Great soundtrack. Pretty solid controls. I like that the Metroidvania style of it, getting all the items and stuff is really fun. I think what turns a lot of people off of this game is it's kind of difficult to know where the hell you're supposed to go, and the like dungeon first-person adventure segments. These are really ambitious, but they just don't work. I think the biggest problem with these is one, when you go into a door and you go to like a first-person adventure mode, you have to look in the lower left-hand corner to see which direction Mikey is facing. Depending on which direction he's facing, up is down and down is up. It's all relative to that. Not a necessary step. Also, to get around the world, you have to either hit walls with your fists, hit them with the hammer, or put on glasses, and that is how you reveal doors and safes and sometimes other Goonies. It's really difficult to play without some kind of map. The side-scrolling stuff is actually pretty solid, really solid platforming. It's an old NES game and you have to come to it understanding that, but I think a lot of people dunked on it because they hated the first-person segments and then couldn't find the other Goonies and then just wrote it off. And that's not fair.
Chiptune Cyndi Lauper.
Oh yeah, and this has a chiptune Cyndi Lauper. This is like one of the first chiptune covers of a pop song. I was thinking about these the other day. Okay, so the E.T. Atari game, right? That has the ba 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 da ba da ba has the theme song from E.T. in the game. So it's like a chiptune cover of a orchestrated song. That might be like some kind of first. But the Cyndi Lauper song that plays in the the opening level of this game, that was just a pop song made for that movie, but was kind of released as a pop single. Does this game have the first chiptune cover of all time? Here's the crazy thing is I didn't know that was a real song. I thought that was just the song that was in the Goonies game. I wonder if there are people out there that have remixed the Goonies song, not realizing you're actually remixing a Cyndi Lauper song. But anyway, the rest of the soundtrack is solid. This is when Konami was really starting to hit their stride on the NES. It's not one of their top bangers. Konami would go on to make, I think, a lot better games on the Nintendo. But people dunk on this game. I've always liked it. Far from perfect, but it's really charming. Antiquated I recommend it a lot. If you a young kid, you want to play some old school NES game, some old school NES jank, I recommend Goonies 2. Or actually, maybe I recommend our next game. Let me tell you, style will get you far. Our next game, Monster Party for the Nintendo. This, in my eyes, this is a classic. This is one of my favorite games on the NES, but it is a busted game. The gameplay to this game is kind of crap. It is a very difficult game. You play as Mark with your bat, and your bat is really small, and it swings really slow, and it's kind of difficult. You can't transform into your cool monster gargoyle named Bert, and he can shoot stuff. You can only transform for a short time, and then you revert back to Mark. You have to beat these long levels and fight a whole bunch of different bosses, and you only have one life to do it. It's difficult. However, this game is brilliant because it's an accident. Or that's my theory. I've studied and looked deep to figure out what the hell happened with this game. So this game was supposed to be Parody World Monster Party. There's a Japanese prototype that was released. That prototype is maybe the only Japanese version that ever came to be, because this is an American-only game. It was made in Japan. It was not released in Japan. This is an America exclusive. I think when they brought it over to America, they had to get rid of all of the parody stuff. So in the first level, you fight this boss. And you go in the boss room, and it's like this kid with a pumpkin head and like just a blanket, like the most basic Charlie Brown Peanuts costume ever. And he says, "Don't pick on me." And then he starts throwing little jack-o'-lantern things at you, and it's such a weird moment. That's because that boss is supposed to be one of the apes riding a horse from Planet of the Apes, because there are whole bunches of parodies to other movies. They had to remove all that stuff. When people talk about this game being censored, what they actually mean is they had to censor all of the copywritten stuff. Thank God they did it, because the localization of this game is just garbage. It's so terrible. Meaning that it inexplicably, somehow, is brilliant. It's like you're walking with a jigsaw puzzle and you trip and you fall down, and somehow the jigsaw puzzle lands on the ground perfectly formed. It is, against all odds, a game that lives and dies by its style, but the style is so thoroughly bonkers. The game consistently, every level there's a boss that will have you falling out of your chair going, what? What? It is constantly weird. In the first level, there's a boss where it's just a dead guy. It's just, you walk into a room and there's just this dead bug-looking thing, and the guy goes, sorry, I'm dead, and then you leave. I think on the fourth level, there's a boss that's like, watch me dance, and then a bunch of zombies rise from the ground, and then they dance, and all you do is sit there and watch them dance, and then they go away. And that's it. They took out all the movie references. They did not take out the Japanese cultural references. So, as an American, I'm like, what the f is going on? So there's one boss that was supposed to be a xenomorph from Alien lobbing facehuggers at you. Can't have that. So they changed it to the Grim Reaper, who tells you, welcome to hell. The word hell is in an NES game. And he just starts throwing skulls at you or something. I forget. There's a church later in the game. Like, there are so many examples of Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy where they removed churches and crosses from the game. Not Monster Party, baby. And the ending is amazing. The ending is legitimately terrifying. It's great. There is a scene in another game called Sweet Home where there is this very graphic, visceral moment where a character like melts and dies. It's awesome.
I loved that.
Yeah, we never got that game in America, but we did get Monster Party, which has some gross, melting, scary shit at the end. The combat is a little busted. You can get used to it. There's basically a hack to the game. The trick is like you jump and then you just leave your bat out, and every time your bat is out, you get an extra hit. So you can kind of very easily like milk hits for bosses, and you can easily farm other enemies for like power-ups and stuff like that. So it's not a terrible game. You can beat it. It's a little tricky, but really, like, it's just a game that is consistently wacky and brilliant, and that it exists at all is amazing. But when you also remember how strict Nintendo's censors were back then, how did this game come out? I don't know, but it exists and it's amazing. Style will get you far. And in terms of style, I still, to this day, in 2020, have a hard time thinking of a better, more stylish, and ridiculous game than Monster Party for the NES. Cannot recommend it enough. Bad game that I f***ing love. So some bad games are just trashy games. So that good Garbo is just in that trash can, right? We were talking about Splatterhouse. Splatterhouse is trashy. What about Bullet Witch? Bullet Witch is a fascinatingly bad game. But the thing I love about it is that, like, yeah, you got this hot babe. She's got her cool gun that looks like a broom. You're in this post-apocalyptic world. There's a lot of story, a lot of cutscenes. Levels are really big and open, but you move really slowly. Combat is kind of interesting. It's the type of game that I feel like you can squint and be like, man, they were really going for something. This is a really ambitious project. But man, Bullet Witch just goes for it. Oh damn, Grace, we gotta get a frame.
Oh yeah?
Because it came with a poster. Gotta have my babes.
Gotta have a babe.
Gotta have babes on my...
You know what? Take down that good games done quick.
Yeah, games done quick's gotta go. It's time for
babes only.
Babes only, yeah. Upgrade. Okay. Got no time for games doing quick, because I'm hanging out with Bullet Witch. For the record, yo, this came out before Bayonetta, way before Bayonetta. If anything, this is like Piano 3 is really the trailblazer here. Okay, I can define this game for you in like one moment and why I like it. In the first level, near the end, so like 2 hours in, there is a gas station in this city, and around this gas station are a bunch of cars. If you use your witch powers, you can push the cars into the gas station and blow the whole damn thing up. And it's huge and it's glorious and it's just a big, huge explosion. Unfortunately, the way this game works, if there's any object that is moving, it's an instant death. So if you push a car onto an enemy, it's gonna kill it. If you get too close to the gas station when it blows up and a piece of debris hits you, that's also instant death. So they wanted to have these big open worlds with no loading, like, and big dynamic, fights. It just is so sloppy. You move so slow. The collision detection just ain't there. Like when you push stuff and it blows up, it looks good, but it is so hard to get shit to blow up. There's only 5 levels in this game. I think I've only played up to like the 2nd level. I always feel like, yeah, I get my fill of Bullet Witch. There's a lot of upgrades. There's some hand-to-hand combat. It's very trashy. It's very simple. It's so surface level, but there's a lot of lore, a lot of design. They really tried to go for it. And apparently they made a sort of HD version that's on Steam where they gave her a dash and fixed some of the lighting and stuff like that. So I actually need to play that one. But then again, would I want to play a Bullet Witch that plays better? I don't know. It's more Bullet Witch, so actually, yeah, I guess I would. It just hits all the right buttons for me. Highly recommended. And you know how I actually got into Bullet Witch, how I first kind of found it, is because I was looking for a game that was very similar to Earth Defense Force. We have talked about this game enough on the channel. I just wanted to give a shout out to Earth Defense Force 2017. This was the start for me. This was the first one. I think it's still one of the better ones, but 4.1 and 5 and Iron Rain are all out now on Steam. They're all fantastic EDF games, but I felt that like the combat in EDF just was so simple and so dumb and just, I want a big gun and shooting stuff. You can kind of do that in Bullet Witch too. In this game, you get more big guns. This game, you get magic. And you can blow up buildings, blow up gas stations. I think these two are kind of one and the same. I think maybe EDF is a little better, but when you talk about like really, when we're talking about good bad games, like good Garbo, the king of the bad games for my money is still EDF. Always been good and still good. And if you haven't seen the videos we've made, hopefully there is footage on the screen. We are showing you footage on the screen that hopefully speaks for itself. This is a game that you know, like within 2 seconds. Yeah, that's my. Nah, I'm good. And that's okay, man. That's more EDF for me. So as we get deeper and deeper into this next millennium here, in this next century, we get further and further away from the chasm that separated console games and the arcade. You're trying to sell a completely different experience. And when I think about a game that could only have been made in the arcade, there's a lot of great ones, but my personal favorite is Gunblade New York, and it inexplicably has a port here on the Wii, Gunblade New York and LA Machines, Rage of the Machines. It's the subtitle of that one. This is basically a game that you walk into an arcade and you see a gigantic TV screen playing very loud, sharp sound effects and 2 giant vibrating mount guns mounted to the machine, firing at a blistering pace. And so you walk past it and you go like, holy, what is that? I need to play that garbage. Literally you shoot, like it shakes your whole body, like if you can find one of these now. It's a great game to play in the arcade. But when you take that home and you shrink it down to a Wiimote and you give yourself unlimited continues, it like completely removes like the whole point of it. And that is actually why I love this game. This is a bad game. I think it was a budget title. There's seriously like these 2 games, you can beat them in an hour, no more than 2 hours. Like there's not enough beer. Like get some friends over, get some cold ones. You will not finish the cold ones. You'll be done with the game, bro. It's so short. But when I play it, it's a great reminder of like the arcade was just a different experience. It was a different market. Yeah, this port is kind of amazing. I think my favorite of the 2 though is Gunblade New York. It just basically looks like Virtua Cop. It's super, super rudimentary, early 3D. It is so bad. It is hilarious. And who doesn't want to just like Rambo style, fly in a helicopter, unlimited ammo, no reloads? Because that's the thing is like when this game came out, there was Time Crisis, there was Virtua Cop, there was Lethal Enforcers. What's the worst thing about those games? Gotta reload. That was why Point Blank was great, right? Point Blank, no reloads, man. Gunblade New York, never stop shooting. Never stop shooting. It's just absolute testosterone action garbage. And I recommend this game a lot. You are not gonna get a whole lot of replay out of it, but you can, it's definitely the type of game you buy. And then every year or so, you pick back up and play it again and you go, oh God, hell yeah. Oh, I have the receipt in here. I bought this for $9.99, July 17th, 2014. Hell yes. Oh, damn. Iron Man 2 coming soon. Oh, now available. Talk about bad games. Yeah, Gunblade New York is just, remember the arcades. The arcades do still exist, but
There's a Gunblade machine at the GameWorks in Seattle.
I've been there, and here's a picture of me playing it. That machine still exists. Actually, last time I was there, the screen was broken. We're in quarantine right now, so you got time to fix that machine, GameWorks. Get it fixed. Or I'm just gonna stay home. You know what? You can go to the arcade, but it's quarantine time right now. It's the apocalypse. Just stay home and play Gunblade New Yorks with your best friend. Bad game, highly recommended. Love it. So we up here talking about bad games. I'm not gonna lie to you though. Some bad games are bad because they're broken and they're very difficult. That can make a game not so much fun to play. Like they're not balanced right, the programming wasn't there, it wasn't QA'd properly, or just it's really difficult but there's not enough style or other things in the game to really counter that. Some games suck, man, because they're just not fun to play. They're way too difficult. But there are some games that are the complete opposite of that, and they become guilty pleasures. Like Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue for the N64. Look at this black cartridge. Woo. I don't know a damn thing about Power Rangers. I own a handful of their games, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care about Power Rangers. I haven't cared about Power Rangers. I'm never gonna care about Power Rangers, but I care about weird bad games. This game is so charming, it is so bombastic and so over the top, and it's incredibly easy and it's incredibly short. Also, this is at a time when games needed to be extra long. This was released in the year 2000. This is when Square was putting out multi-disc RPG after multi-disc RPG, and Nintendo was trying to compete with that. And here's a game that honestly you can beat in an hour, maybe less. I bet you could speedrun this game really fast. What's great about this game, oh God, it's just all that is so hilarious. There's all kinds of audio and voiceover stuff.
Here I am! Yeah!
That's just so unintentionally hilarious. Like when you finish a level, it goes, yay! There's lots of variety, actually. You're on foot rescuing people, you're in a fire truck rescuing people, and then you're in a Megazord fighting dudes in a big 3D brawler. Hey, how about some Megazord action? How about some Megazord action? My brain just like lights up. Like the cutscenes in this game are hilarious. This game looks like a Flash website you would see in the year 2000. But it's not difficult. There's some really good like lighting and particle effects. Like everything's got a big, bright, booming explosions and stuff like that. The sound effects are bright and powerful and punchy. It's a really charming little game that is trying to have a lot of fun with itself. It's extremely easy, very forgettable, but you know what? Here's what you do. When you're done with your Gunblades, but you still got beer left over, you know, then you move on to Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, and then when you're really good and drunk, then you play some Bullet Witch. It's also a game that is cheap. I can't imagine it would go for very much. I got mine for only like a nickel. That's another great thing about bad games. If you want a budget, get yourself some garbage for nice and cheap. Also, hey, if there are any Power Rangers fans, is this game like accurate to the show? Does it have the character arc that you would expect?
Derek, what color are you?
I mean, I've gotta be the red one, right? Because I'm the leader, because I'm the best.
Oh.
Right?
Interesting.
Gotta be. I feel like every time I play this game, I just like go through all the characters, because why not?
I always liked the yellow one.
Yeah.
Or the pink one.
And you know what I like? The run animation in this is so ridiculously goofy. Their arms and feet swing so dramatically. This game's hilarious. It's so hilarious. It's so fun. Man, there's probably a lot of games like it, but this one, that's one that I highly recommend. What's your N64 collection got? You got GoldenEye, you got Zelda, you got your Mario? Fill out that N64 collection. Get the good shit too. Don't forget about the good stuff. Everyone's got Winback, okay? We all love Winback. We agree Winback is like probably like the second best N64 game of all time. But you know what? Power Rangers, Lightspeed Rescue.
Get yourself the fourth best.
But seriously, get yourself some good Garbo in your N64 collection. Oh, Bullet Witch, I love you. Anyway, that's gonna do it for now. Again, I could go on forever about my favorite bad games. My favorite thing to do though is to say, yo, in the comments, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the bad games that are fun, that we love anyway. You know, we can all appreciate the dingers, but what about the stinkers? I love that Garbo. We all love that Garbo, right? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe you want to upgrade. You want to talk about your Garbo games just in the comment section. You want to talk about your favorite Garbo games in the Discord, the Stop Skeletons From Fighting Discord. With the $1 on our Patreon, gets you access to the Discord, gets you access to voting on videos early, watching videos early, participating in our podcast audio recordings. Check that out. We appreciate the support. Every single person here, they get all the awesome. Look at all this extra awesome stuff that they get. You want the awesome stuff too, right? Want to hang out with all these friends? All these people are rad. We really, really appreciate it. It's just $1. Or hey, if you don't want to do that, we know times are tough. Just keep watching.
Subscribe!
I'm getting to it, Grace. I'm gonna subscribe, leave a comment, like, and stay tuned because I will see you again really soon.